is Tampa Home Talk, and I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Thank you for rejoining us this week. And it's been a little quiet season in Tampa Bay with regards to the storms, but nevertheless, our guest for this hour is Mr. Matt Lentz. He's the owner of the roofing company of Tampa Bay. And here on Tampa Home Talk, we're going to talk about a roofing reality check. We're going to talk into all of those things related to the roof, things you should know even ahead of storm season. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest and say good morning. Welcome, Matt.
Good morning, Katrina. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. And so you've been serving the greater Tampa Bay area here for over a decade. And one of the things that makes you and your company a little different is just giving that honest and guidance, those thorough inspections, and the things that maybe make some other roofing companies different. Because you're still a business, right? You need to sell roofs, but sometimes you don't need to sell that roof a little sooner than you do.
Absolutely. And perfect segue. Believe it or not, we're actually doing a job today with a homeowner who we had provided a quote to in 2023. And at that time, we were honest with them, told them, hey, you've got a couple more years. And we are literally doing that roof today.
That's awesome.
So they called us back, 2.5, almost 3 years later. We did a reevaluation. Insurance stepped in, suggested that it was time, and so we're doing the roof now. So
I mean, it's a big deal when you think about a couple of years, right? And it's a homeowner maintenance item. So I know a lot of people try to make that claim on their homeowner's insurance, but it's really just not wise. If you're a homeowner, you should be budgeting and saving for major components like a roof, which is probably one of the most expensive you can put on your home. Mm-hmm. But 2 or 3 years is a good amount of time to save, right? And I'm sure the numbers are probably a little different, which makes that a challenge also because your costs are higher than they were 3 years ago.
Correct. But, just the fact that we were honest with this customer, 3 years ago, and, that's really what we pride ourselves in is just trying to call it like it is, pretend like we're the homeowner,
right.
Treat it like it's our house. And if this was me, what would I do? And
let me guess, they had somebody knock on their door and tell them it was time to replace their roof, right? And then they ended up getting a connection or referral. We hear that so much. And I know a lot of my past clients listen to and watch the show, as do a lot of peers. And I tell people, if someone's coming if they're knocking on your door and you don't know them, be very aware of that type of person. You typically want to go with someone that's either referred to you or someone that is known or recommended or trusted by somebody like me, because we're going to send you somebody like that where they're not like, hey, you got a couple of years,
Correct. Yeah. Unfortunately, that door knocking method of getting customers, there's actually a lot of good companies out there doing it and doing it the right way. But there's a lot that aren't.
Right. And if you don't know them, how do you know? Right.
Correct.
So I think that's the bigger challenge. And, for me, I'd always rather go with a referral versus, pick up the phone book, so to speak, the modern day, or, deal with the salesperson that approached you at your door. Yep. I know for me, like when I had to replace a roof, we were in the same house for 20 something years. And when that came along and I had to replace the roof, literally it was raining in my house. We had been saving for so long to replace the roof. And it's just, I don't know if your customer had actually leaks in or they just said, no, it's time. But you theoretically could repair it a little longer if someone needed more money to save for a roof.
Exactly. And so, that's part of what we do, or what any good roofer is going to do when they go see a customer, is really educate them. Hey, right. Here's the current status of your roof. Here's the current condition. This is either repairable or it's not. And then you've always got to look at the insurance angle of, why am I even here, right? Am I here because you have a leak and have a problem that needs to be addressed? Or am I here because insurance sent you that dreaded letter that said, we're going to drop you or increase your premiums, right, unless you replace the roof. And so, we try to consult with people and find out really what the reason is for us being there, and then talk about, okay, here's all the scenarios that, you could repair, but that may only get you, another year, 2, 3 versus replacement. Then you can look at the premium savings on the replacement, immediately, and then kind of do a business case study to decide, okay, I'm going to be saving, $1,000 a year on my premium, for example, right? And then, you can plug that into the formula to try to help them make an educated decision.
And unfortunately, the insurance companies are being so proactive, right? Because they've been approached to replace a homeowner maintenance item at insurance, right? Saying it was
Correct.
storm damage or whatever, which sometimes it might be or some variation of that. But the thing about the whole insurance is, and even your customer that you had today, they may have even had a few more years left on the roof, but because the insurance companies are so overzealous with, hey, do it now because of all the homeowners insurance claims, I feel like they're making people replace their roofs a little more proactively and earlier than they should, where if it's me and I'm a homeowner and I have to replace a roof, I want to have time to save and stretch that out for as long as possible.
Exactly. And so it's going to vary, at least from my experience, it varies by the carrier, by the individual insurance company. Some insurance companies, you just land on their radar based on a permit search. If the last roof permit that they can find was 15 years ago, you might at least be put on notice. Sometimes that can trigger an inspection. And so, occasionally those inspections, we end up getting called out, do a formal inspection, write a certification report. And, if the roof really is in good shape and is not showing signs of wear and tear and has some life left, we can write a letter on behalf of the homeowner to the insurance company. A lot of insurance companies will accept that as an extension of life. It may buy a homeowner another year or two, but a lot of times we'll do that if it makes sense.
Some of my older generations, this one's for you because a lot of you guys are used to doing stuff without permits, and we don't live in that day and age anymore. So don't try to get your roof replaced without a permit. So going back to what you said, if it's 15-year-old on record, but maybe they replaced it 5 ago, but for whatever reason there was no permit, like that is a huge red flag. Do not do that.
We do get that call. It's probably once a month where somebody will call us and, hey, I had my roof replaced, 5 years ago. They didn't pull a permit. What can I do? And the answer is
they're probably out of business, right?
Yeah, exactly. Out of business or never were licensed, which is another problem. And so
it's a big problem.
It is. It is.
So the thing about roofs, right? Like this is not some cosmetic upgrade where you're just redoing your kitchen so it can look pretty, right? This is a regulated structure system on your home. It's what keeps everything else dry and free of debris and in good condition.
Exactly, which is why it's so important to the insurance companies. And, on the real estate side,
right.
That home inspection, when it comes time to, for coverage to be bound, right, for that buyer, roof is top of the list in terms of importance for an insurance company because, to your point, it keeps everything else under it dry.
Right. So talk about from the perspective of my roof looks fine, especially from the ground. I can see it. I don't see any cracked or curling shingles from here. But then legally, you guys are saying, yeah, it's defective, or yeah, we have to replace it. Help the person listening, like a homeowner, understand why it looks fine, but it's not.
Okay, great question. So it kind of goes back to the part you see. If it's a shingle roof, the shingles themselves, you can generally tell whether they are aging or, if it's truly near end of life, you're going to see that curling. The shingles won't be sealed down to the roof anymore. So that's a visual cue that's usually pretty easy to see from the ground. Physically, the shingle, if it's not adhered to the one below it, that's called a broken seal. That happens over time because it's an asphalt product that dries out over time and eventually fails. Only a physical inspection where you're on the roof and literally lifting those shingles to determine are they still sealed down properly. Those are the things that you can see.
Right.
What you can't see is what's underneath it and the underlayment beneath the shingles. If that was installed improperly, if the wrong material was used, that you could have a bigger problem that you can't even visually see until it starts failing.
Right. And talk about, because I know a lot of sellers, I get this question all the time, and I'll have you explain it as the roofer, but people will say, oh, well, I have a 40-year shingle. My roof should last for 40 years, right?
Yes.
Shingle, not metal, shingle. In that particular instance, let's talk about why it doesn't last for 40 years, right? When the manufacturer's saying, yeah, it's a 40-year shingle, and how it's different here in Florida versus other climate, maybe that has snow or not as extreme of heat.
Yep. Great question again. So all manufacturers these days, most of them call it a lifetime shingle. Well, what is lifetime?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
What does lifetime really mean?
Your lifetime, as long as you own it.
Exactly. It means, in Florida, 15 to 20 years is probably the average life expectancy of a roof, of a shingle roof in Florida. That's without storm damage. So just due to the extreme temperature fluctuations, the heat, the UV rays, shingle roofs in Florida, generally 15 to 20 years is what you're going to see.
It's most of the ones we see, but there's so many options out there now as it relates to roofing systems. Are you guys doing the ones like metal has come a long way, and like Indecra and some of those products are incredible, and they can look like a shingle roof but be metal. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes. Yeah. So familiar with that product. It is right now probably the most expensive product offering out
Decra?
there. Yeah, it is. Those, we call them stone-coated steel tiles, right, or shingles. They make them that look like shingles. They also make them that look like tiles. And so depending upon the neighborhood, the HOA, what the homeowner wants as a look, you have both options. It is a very expensive product, but it is truly a 30, 40, 50-year product. And I believe
if not longer, right? Because it's metal. I mean, roofs can last 100 years.
They can, again, as long as insurance will accept that fact, right? With a proper inspection.
I'm going to tell you guys, like, if you're fighting with your insurance company about this, and for example, let's say you put on a Decra roof or a metal roof, fight with your insurance company about this. Get a roof exclusion if you have to. But for me, before I ripped off a metal roof, I would definitely say insure me without a roof put a roof exclusion.
Yes.
Because it's just, I mean, as well as I do, those metal roofs will outlast you.
If they're installed properly and you put the right system on based on the location, yes, it's a lifetime roof. It really can be.
Yeah. So how does the homeowner know that it's being installed properly, right? So we're not roofers. That's your wheelhouse. Are there some things that a seller or a homeowner could look for or watch that would have them say, okay, yeah, they're doing this right, or hey, maybe I should stop them and ask more questions?
Yes. So I think, ask the right questions. Get comfortable with a contractor, interview multiple contractors, check references, ask for referrals, all of those things that are kind of common sense.
So if you're a homeowner and you're interviewing roofers, what should I ask you?
Okay, great. So
because we're not roofers, so
yeah. So how long have you been in business? That's a really big one, especially since the storms happened, a year and a half ago. In a storm event in Florida, you get all of these roofing companies that come in, set up shop temporarily. They do the door knocking, they work the insurance claims, and then they disappear. Mm-hmm. Some of them do stay behind, but the ones that disappear, they leave problems behind, and they are nowhere to be found. They perhaps were here under legit circumstances, or perhaps not. There's a lot of both, but generally speaking, if you have a problem as a homeowner 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, and you used a company that was not established locally, you could have a problem. So first thing would be really just find out the history of the company, the history of the license holder or the owner.
Ask for insurance,
exactly.
References.
Proof of insurance, references.
Look at their reviews.
Reviews, all of those things. Also ask about really who's doing the work. There's a subcontractor model in this business, and there's an employee model in this business.
What's yours like?
So we actually have employees in doing our installations. These are guys that have been with me for 6, 7+ years. And so
a lot of them do subcontractor models, right? Which means that people can change often.
That is a fact. And then it just becomes more difficult to address a problem.
And manage the work.
And hold people accountable.
Yeah.
So like I say, not that there aren't fantastic subs out there, but just as a homeowner.
But you don't know who they are.
I want to know, exactly. As a homeowner, you should ask that question. Do you use subs or do you use employees? right?
So I'd love to come back a little later in the show and talk about some of the different types of roofings, and then get a general idea how wild that cost can vary,
Sure.
without putting into exact numbers. But I would love to talk just a little bit about repair versus replace.
Okay.
So if we can chat about this, when you think about like cosmetics wear versus functional damage, or when the repairs make sense, when they don't, things that homeowners should document.
Yep. Great question. So we get called out regularly, for people who they'll ask us, we're not sure if we need a repair or a replacement. So the first thing we need to do is really go perform an inspection, find out what's going on, and then take a
Now,
look.
are you guys physically still on the roof, or are you doing a lot of stuff by drone?
Both. So, for a proper leak inspection, we're going to walk the roof. If the attic is accessible, we're going to be looking in the attic to try to determine, where the water's coming in, what the problem is.
Yeah.
And then, we're going to take into account what else we see on the roof. So first of all, what kind of condition is the roof in? How old is the roof? Is this something that's repairable versus are we going to recommend a replacement based on age or condition? A 15 to 20-year-old roof that is leaking, the shingles themselves are brittle,
Right.
and fragile at that time. It becomes more difficult to actually do a proper repair because where do you stop and where do you start? And tying into a brittle piece of material with a new piece of material is going to cause problems.
The sun is so rough on everything.
It is.
Roofing components, all of it. And the dark roofs, I think they take a beating a little more, right? Than
they do, but believe it or not, that is somewhat of a fallacy. So being an asphalt shingle product, a light-colored asphalt shingle is going to generate almost as much heat as a truly black shingle. And the way you combat that, or the way we address it, is just with proper ventilation. So that's another thing that can extend or greatly reduce the life of a roof in Florida is ventilation or lack of ventilation.
The roofing systems, do they all require the underlayment, or are most people just doing that on the whole roof?
They do, yeah. Underlayment is a code requirement.
Oh, good.
And there's two types of underlayment, and they can cause the price of the roof to vary drastically.
What's the two different types of underlayment?
There is what we call a synthetic underlayment, which, old times people refer to it like as tar paper. The new version of tar paper, as I'm doing the air quotes, is called a synthetic underlayment. It's a plastic, almost
peel and stick plastic. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's almost like a tarp. It's like
Yeah.
tarp material, right? Or like a Tyvek wrap that you see around a house. It's,
The last time I paid for a roof, I put that on the whole roof, and they really weren't doing that at the time. Just some little places near the flashing. I'm like, no, I want it on the whole roof.
yeah. So that's a synthetic underlayment. Synthetic underlayment is actually nailed onto the roof. The other kind is what we call a peel and stick underlayment or a self-adhered underlayment.
That's the plastic one, right?
Well, that's the one that gets you actually an additional credit with your insurance company.
How much more is that compared to the old tar paper version?
It is significantly more, but you usually see the payoff based on the insurance.
Well, I mean, if your shingles rip off, that underlayment will keep water from coming in your house, which is why the insurance companies like it.
Correct. That's exactly right. So they will reward a homeowner for having that type of underlayment because in just exactly what you described, in the event of a windstorm, if we lose some shingles on the roof, there's still a waterproof barrier underneath it that's functional.
Your worst case scenario is you're replacing some shingles, not all the stuff in the house.
Exactly. Or again, roofs are still going to leak if they have shingles blow off. It's possible, but it's going to be drips coming in instead of the whole ceiling coming down.
Yeah, which is a big difference.
From an insurance claim standpoint, it's going to be minor repairs versus, having to replace a ceiling and insulation and that kind of thing.
Just for conversation purposes, Matt, when you think about the average size home roof, what is that, like 3,000 squares-ish average?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, your average greater Tampa market roof is probably going to be 2,500 to 3,000 square feet of roofing or of shingles or roof surface area.
So
So
what is a shingle or what is a roof? What does it cost roughly? And I know there's all different types of roofing materials, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
sure.
But I'm trying to get an idea what the cost is for a 3,000 square foot roof cover, and then
Yep.
how much additional that underlayment we're talking about would be.
Okay. Yep. Great question. So I'm going to give a really wide range, but there's a reason.
Okay.
So, you're for a 3,000 square foot roof, not the size of the home, because you can find
Your living is smaller than your whole under roof.
That's exactly right for a couple reasons, right? You've got overhang in over the footprint of
Garage
the home,
space,
the
back
garage
lanais.
space, exactly, and you've got a pitch to the roof, which increases the square footage right over
Right.
top of that footprint. But you're probably looking on a square foot basis, right? Probably $4.25 a square foot for roofing, all the way up to mid fives or even $6 a square foot.
What does that
depending.
math out to in dollar wise for 3,000?
So 13 to probably $17,000.
Okay.
Just I know that's a big range, but there's a lot of things that go into a roof. There's a lot of options. Warranty is another one, and so that's probably one of the most common things we get asked is why I've gotten 3 prices from roofers, right? Why are they so different? And it's because it's not apples to apples. And so that's another thing back on the homeowner question.
Yeah.
You've got to compare apples to apples, and hopefully whoever you meet with is actually asking the right questions to put you into the right roofing system or product based on your needs.
So the underlayment would add how much to that, or is that very in that range or no?
Yeah, so the underlayment difference between the synthetic versus the peel and stick. I mean, you're probably talking,
Couple thousand maybe.
Yeah, exactly. It
That's
is
kinda
a
what I
couple
was thinking.
$1,000 upgrade. Again, just depends.
Well
on
worth
the
it. I know
size
it
and
sounds
the
like a
shape.
lot if
Yeah.
you're replacing a roof to tack on another 2,000, but it's
Right.
definitely worth it.
But in that scenario, you look at it like a business decision, and hey, if I upgrade to that, I could potentially save. And let's say it was a $2,000 upgrade, but it saves you $1,000 a year in your insurance. There's your payouts 2 years.
So there's all these little things that insurance companies look for as well in terms of being able to apply discounts. So can you break down some of those in terms of like explain to the person listening about straps and toenails and clips and all the stuff that
Absolutely
is roofer terminology?
Yep. So insurance is going to have access to, they'll either order it themselves or they'll be presented with a wind mitigation report. So a wind mitigation report is a report or an inspection that's conducted by a home inspector and provided to the homeowner. And basically what it does is it's a document shared with insurance that allows the insurance company to see what your current roof system is, the shape of it, does it have or is it up to code in terms of the nailing of the deck, the hurricane clips or straps, the underlayment. Those are really the 3 biggies or, the large things that a roofer can actually control or things that a homeowner can elect to do during a replacement. The shape of the roof, the geometry is what they call it in the report. A hip roof, think shaped like a pyramid versus a gable roof, is a better wind resistant shape. Generally speaking, it's not something you can change,
Right.
Without significant costs.
Well, yeah.
And involving a general contractor to basically, reshape the entire roof. Usually cost prohibitive for the savings.
Yeah, I mean, that's a major construction project to change the roof,
Correct.
trusses, and the whole pitch. That's a big deal.
But yeah, as any part of a re-roof or any re-roof, you can re-nail the deck. So basically that's putting additional nails into the plywood decking to hold the roof on in the event of a windstorm, right? So that's part of a re-roof that's code. Installing hurricane clips or straps, that is an option for a homeowner. It is current building code, but on a retrofit, it's an option for a homeowner, and there's a very complicated formula that's used with regard to home value and it being required based on the home value, also the actual cost of the installation.
So the straps are where basically you guys go in and you strap the trusses to the roof so the whole thing doesn't come up in a storm.
Correct. Yeah. So clips or straps, kind of a synonymous term, but basically it is a metal fastener that is used to physically attach the roof structure to the top of the wall around the house, the perimeter of the house.
Yeah.
And so again, in a strong storm, it basically keeps the entire roof structure bolted down to the house.
Now,
right?
how do you guys retrofit that? Because you're not removing all the roof decking, right, before you put on the shingle. So how are you retrofitting or adding that?
Yep, great question. So the only way to do that, to install clips if you don't have them, right, or install straps if you don't have them, is you do it from the attic, which is very difficult, right, with the roof on. You do it from the soffits from the outside. That's sometimes an option. Easiest and best time to do it is during a re-roof because you can remove the plywood over top of that roof-to-wall connection area, and now you're working in open space.
Right.
You can literally stand on top of the wall, install the clip or the strap, and take a picture of it, document it for the home inspector and for the wind mitigation, and then now you're going to get that discount in your insurance.
Are you guys able to reapply that decking or use it, or typically when you take it off, you replace it? Or
sometimes we're able to reuse it. If the decking was in good shape, yes, we can generally reuse it. If the decking is old, dried, splintered, cracking, it won't survive it.
It's like your foundation of your roof.
Exactly. Yep. And
It's
again, wood will. It becomes old and brittle, if it's been under that roof structure and being heated and cooled for 20 or 30 years, there's a good chance it won't survive.
And that can change your quote quite a bit too. And that's one of the things you guys can't see as roofers until you get in there and you start ripping off the roof and you have a chance to look at the decking or the plywood that's underneath all the shingles or your roof system. You can't see how much is damaged or rotting or in bad condition, and that could change.
That is correct. Yeah. So that's usually the one kind of variable that a lot of people are nervous about, or a lot of homeowners are nervous about, is how much wood is going to be required, to bring my house up to code or to effectively put on a new roof. So by code, we have to have a clean, nailable surface. So again, if this is the fourth re-roof on this house, chances are the decking has already, it's
had its life.
It's had 10,000 nails put into it already, 4 times. And so there's a good chance there's not enough suitable, nailable surface in that scenario.
Right.
So they're going to be looking at a lot of wood replacement.
I'm curious why we haven't evolved into something different than wood, for the decking.
Great question.
It's like an engineer question, I know, but that's how my mind thinks.
Or the forestry lobby, perhaps, right?
So. Yeah, perhaps. You would think there'd be some sort of plastic or synthetic type decking, that would last a little longer.
Yep. No, I agree.
Is your decking any different, like under a metal roof or?
No, generally no. So same process. You're going to find that same typical decking underneath any of the common roofing structures.
Yeah.
Short of commercial, where it's a steel frame building.
So we'll wrap up the show talking about some of the different type of roofs. But before we do, let me ask the question that real estate brokers like me loathe when we go in to see a property and they have solar. They have solar panels on their roof.
Yes.
So let's talk about that because, solar, we hate it. And for a reason, because your appraiser is not going to give it any value. Buyers rarely give it value. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want it. If you sell it with solar panels, you're going to have to pay them off. So these are things that shock sellers and homeowners when I tell them, buyers don't want your solar panels.
Yeah, and it's a mixed bag. A lot of people just love solar. A lot of people hate it, and there's usually not anybody in between. But to your point, yes, solar usually goes with the house the way most solar systems are sold and titled or maintained. And yes, they typically need to be paid off at closing.
Oh, they definitely do. They're a lien that attaches. They definitely do. And the problem and what I see, and you can chat about this more from the roofing perspective, nobody wants to move them like to a different house and or reinstall them if the roof has to be replaced. And sometimes they can even cause damage to your home where you have to replace the roofing a little sooner because the solar panels were there.
That is a fact. So we deal with that quite a bit. And so roofing in general, right, or solar in general, there's been kind of a cleansing of the solar industry as of late. In fact, the federal government did away with the federal tax credit, which was making solar so popular. That ended December 31st of 25. So you're not seeing a whole lot of new solar ownership happening right now. But the existing systems that are out there, there's been so many bankruptcies by solar companies and solar installers that a lot of these systems, we refer to them as orphan systems. They have no owner. The homeowner owns them, but they have no servicer.
Even the ones that are still around, those companies don't want to move them. They won't take them off so a new roof can be installed and put them back on.
Right. And
they just
so
won't.
They charge a fee for that. Each homeowner, some homeowners have that written into their solar contract for example, a single removal and reinstallation during the life of the loan.
If they're around.
If they're around, exactly.
So do you guys ever
around,
reinstall those, or no? It's completely outside of your scope?
So yes. Okay. During a re-roof, quite common. It's basically a per panel charge to have it removed. We take everything off, put a new roof on, and then the solar company comes back out and does a reinstall. And they just charge per panel based on the size of the system to do that. It's not overly complicated. It can be expensive. Retail for that removal and reinstallation is perhaps $200 to $250 a panel.
Yeah,
and up. So
and then I think about, well, what happens if it's damaged when you move it? Like, there's all these things.
Right. That's why, again, get a reputable company or get a licensed company out there that is permitted or licensed to do that type of work. Get it in writing, and have them coordinate with your roofing company. If they're not the same company, at least have them work together. So
I get clients all the time that ask me about solar, and I'm just like, I cringe. I'm like, do not put solar on your home. Like, for most people, it is not a good. You shouldn't do it. For most people, even though I love solar, I love the concept of it. I just can't. I've looked at the contracts. I've worked with these guys on the backside, and there's not one solar company I would recommend personally. And when you think about it, like, I would never put a solar system on my own roof at my house. I wouldn't do it. I never would.
And that's coming from somebody that drives a Tesla.
I know. And trust me,
believe in solar.
I like it. I do believe in solar. I like it. But unless I could build like some sort of exterior structure where it's not on the roof of my house, like an outside separate something that would solar power my house, I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't put it on my roof personally.
Yep. So I'm with you, and as a roofer, I hate the idea of poking holes into a perfectly good roof. Now,
yes.
So
I'm glad I'm not the only crazy one thinking that.
Standing seam metal, for example, they make a bracketing and an installation system that doesn't actually penetrate the roof panel. It's a clamp that goes on the standing seam, so does no damage, can be removed.
For metal roofs.
For metal roofs, right? They make a similar system for flat roofs. So like commercial flat roofs, you don't actually have to drill into the roof system itself. You can use an adhesive product. So in essence, glue it to the roof, but at least you're not penetrating that
I think that's membrane. A way better option if you're going to put them on your roof. But I agree with you. Those are the shingles are sealed and like locked up for a reason. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You don't want to be putting new holes in that.
Agreed.
I don't know why, like, again, back to the whole engineer brain type question, really we should have those exterior, either just the lanai or like an outside living space where the solar panels can go on those, but not on the roof system of your house.
Yeah. So, in order for most Florida homeowners to achieve a number that makes sense, they need a certain number of panels, right? And so now it's finding the space on the homeowner's property to install that number of panels.
How many is that roughly? Do you know, like, how many?
Like an average size
like
system?
Talking about the 3,000 square foot roof line, since we were on that.
I mean, it's totally going to depend on the homeowner's usage. Are they a high user of electricity or a low user of electricity relative to the home size?
So is it 25 to 35, 40, 50 panels?
It could be that much, yeah. It really, in my opinion, the reputable companies that are selling it are going to, again, consult with the homeowner and size the system properly for their needs, right? Not oversell them
Right.
or undersell them, right? Both really are bad scenarios for a homeowner. So,
yeah, I guess it's a good time to roll to the different types of roofs. And because I've seen some crazy stuff, and I'm not a roofer, but I don't know much about this stuff, which is why I'm asking you. But let's talk about some of the different roof products and options that are out there.
Sure.
And we'll start maybe with the least expensive and work our way up. So least expensive would be shingles, right? It's what we see on everything.
Yep. Shingle is the most common by far. It is the most economical option. It does last, the least amount of time. So if you make a comparison to like vehicle maintenance, right? An asphalt shingle is like tires on your car. You absolutely are going to have to replace it at some time, right? It is a wear and tear item. It's not a permanent addition or
it's not your roof trusses.
Exactly. So it is a wear and tear item. So just budget accordingly. And like we were saying earlier in the conversation, 15 to 20 years is a reasonable expectation for a shingle roof in this market. So, just be prepared to budget for that.
Yeah, depending on the size of your home and the age and all these things should determine what your homeowner maintenance budget is, but everyone should have one.
Yep.
So that if you have to replace something, hot water heater, HVAC, roof, something
Exactly.
major that you need, you've got a little budget set aside for that.
Correct.
So just for generic purposes, and we're not holding you to anything, but we're talking about that 2,500 to 3,000. Let's just go with 15, right, on a shingle roof.
Yep.
What's the next option in terms of like just other? Because people have heard of like shingle and metal, but there's so many options out there for roofing.
Sure. Yep. So shingle, again, that's what we find in this market is the most popular,
Right.
just because it is the most affordable.
Right.
A step up, and it's a big step up from there, is going to be like a tile roof. So concrete tile, for example, you find that obviously in a lot of HOAs.
I was going to say it's very conducive to the neighborhood that you're in.
It is, exactly. So, rarely do people, just decide to put a tile roof on. It's usually a part of the neighborhood, a part of the HOA. And in fact, tile roofs, because of the weight of the tile itself, have specific engineering done. So the roof trusses on those houses that originally get tile are stronger to support the weight.
That's a good point,
So-
meaning you might not necessarily be able to go from shingle to tile if you wanted to.
We've had several customers a year request that, hey, can I put tile on my roof? Well, we have to go do an inspection, and if it has shingles now, right, we have to go
engineer's
back
gotta do
and
recalcs.
find out. Yeah, exactly. Like, did it ever have tile? Was it engineered for the tile originally? And so, yes, we sometimes have to get an engineer involved to see if it's feasible.
So just to give some context to our conversation, so let's go with 15 on the shingle. If you're talking about a tile roof, same size, roughly what's that look like?
Roughly twice as much.
Okay.
It's about
So
twice
30.
as expensive.
We're going to go to roughly 30.
Yeah.
And then and that's going to last longer, by the way.
That is. So, yes, insurance does recognize that as a longer lasting roof system.
So we're saying 15 to 20 years on shingle, which I think is conservative in this day and age. It used
Right,
to last
right.
20, but
Yeah.
Tiles, how
roof,
long?
So as far in the insurance company's eyes, I would say probably 30.
Okay. So double the price, but double the time.
Exactly. And so have also seen, and like a shingle roof as well, a tile roof, the best part of the tile roof or the actual waterproofing part of the tile roof is what's underneath the tiles. So, your actual roofing system is hidden. So it's only as good as the underlayment and the way it was installed.
And those can come with a whole host of challenges as well when you're looking at replacing those tile roofs and they get older. Because you
Yes.
can't just get up there and start walking on them. Those will crack,
Exactly. Yep.
especially if they're old.
If they're old, yes, you got to be careful walking on them. Those cracks in those tiles, some of it's superficial. Sometimes it requires a replacement. But yes, typically what an insurance company is looking at, they're droning those roofs for the homeowners, and they are identifying cracked tiles, and they're going to require, an inspection and a proper repair on those before they, bind coverage or continue to carry that homeowner's
And
roof.
they're a lot heavier because they're basically like concrete, right? That's why the weight and the engineering part matters.
Exactly right. Yep, exactly right.
So we talked about shingle, we talked about tile, and then what's another option after that?
Then you're kind of moving up to the metal category. And so,
and that's where a lot of the options come in, right? Is metal?
It is. Yep. So you've got, standing seam metal. You have
just describe what that looks like. So for the person listening, what's a standing seam metal?
Okay, so a standing seam metal roof is, they're popular in the beach communities, like beachside properties. It has a long line running from top to bottom.
So that coastal solid sheet almost looking.
Exactly. So, and it also has no exposed fasteners. So that's why it is a premium roofing system. All of the fasteners or screws that are used to install the system are all hidden underneath the panels. So you don't have anything exposed. That's why it's such a good roofing system. Like I say, you don't have any exposed nails or screws, or all the fastening system is hidden underneath.
Which is stuff that can leak.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly.
And so is there maintenance on those or minimal maintenance?
So depending on manufacturer's specs, in order to maintain a warranty, a lot of times they require you just wash them off or rinse them once a year and document it with fresh water. And I'm talking specifically about the ocean or Gulf front locations. If you're within a certain linear footage of salt water, that can affect your warranty based on the metal product used.
And those that's roofs that can last 100 years.
30, 40, 50, 60-year roofs, they can be.
Some of them are 100. I know you've seen metal roofs that are 100 years old.
Yes.
Yep. Especially on some of those Seminole Heights bungalows, and it's not uncommon to see that.
No, you're exactly right. Yeah, that is a lifetime roofing system.
So what's the cost look like on something like that? If we're doing the same comparable size home, we went to 15 to 30 for tile, and what's metal look like?
Probably 10 to 20% greater than tile.
So roughly,
another
35, 40.
Ish. Tops. Yeah, may not be that high. So there are some variables in that type of system. So the true waterfront properties that are around the salt water, we recommend using aluminum, right? And aluminum's a more expensive product than steel.
And they have a coating, right, that kind of prevents the salt from.
They do. Yes. Yep. Kynar is a brand name that is a method or a brand of coating that's used. And it's basically like a powder coat. They come in 100 different colors. And so
that's the basic metal, right, that most people are familiar with. And then what other types of metal roof exist?
Yep. Then you have what we talked about earlier. So you have your metal shingles or your metal tiles. And so these are stamped pieces of steel. They have a coating on top of them.
So these are the stone-coated ones we were talking about.
The stone-coated steel, exactly. They make them that mimic and look like a shingle, like an asphalt shingle, and they make them that look like and mimic a tile roof. And they come in both the barrel tiles as well as the flat tiles.
Okay.
Great-looking product. It really, really is.
And that's like the Decker product we were talking about earlier.
Yep, Decker is one of the.
Is there anything in between those two?
Not that I'm
not
aware
a lot.
of. No.
Okay.
So that is the premium product. Like I say, it's all custom ordered by the manufacturer and then delivered in a package based on the size and shape of the roof.
So what about? I know I've seen this before, but I just don't know anything about it. And you guys may or may not install them. But the roofs that are solar panels. Are you familiar with that?
Yes. So, Tesla is probably the most popular one.
So they actually make that product.
Tesla, actually the Tesla roof.
So tell me what that looks like. Describe that.
Don't quote me on this, but
I won't. But I don't know anything about it.
I bet you there's probably only a dozen of those roofs in this market.
Okay.
And it is by far the most expensive roof.
So more than the metal.
Probably by a factor of 3 or 4 times. It can be
the metal or the shingle
of the metal. Yeah, it can be extremely expensive.
Okay. So if we're looking at $40,000 for the last roof we were talking about, this might be $80,000
or twice that. Yes,
100 and something.
It could be easily.
Wow.
I don't know what their life expectancy is, but on the Tesla website, it's got a 25-year tile warranty on it. That's coming directly from Tesla.com.
So the
So
Tesla roof, it requires a Tesla certified
Of course.
installer
Yeah,
to do
not
that
surprised.
roof. And there's one, maybe two in this market. Don't know personally. I'm just very, I know enough to be dangerous about the
It's
product,
like the charging ports back in the day, because I've had my car for so long. Like you had to have a Tesla certified person that did it, otherwise you risk burning your entire house down. And there was one in the whole area originally, like 6 years ago. So what's the nature of that product? Like, what is it?
So it is I guess I'd call it a composite tile.
So like a plastic
that has a built-in, a plastic that has a built-in solar panel. So the roofs are actually they're great looking. I mean, it looks like a black flat tile, but the roof tiles themselves are the solar panels. So a traditional solar system is put onto the roof with a racking system.
This is like all in one.
Yeah, this is all in one. So the roof is your solar panel system. There are some shingle manufacturers they're diving into this space. They've put some products out that are much less efficient than a traditional solar panel, and so it's kind of a neat
still in
idea.
Beta test, right?
Yeah,
it's
still kind of half baked. There was a manufacturer that put some of that product out, and I believe they had to do a recall. So it's like I say, it's a neat
it's so
idea,
new. They don't know what they don't
technology.
know yet.
Correct.
They have to sell it, put it on, see what it's like with that homeowner, figure out what the flaws are, fix it before it gets better.
And Florida's a tough market, right? Based on what we talked about before, just the extreme temperature, the unrelenting sun, like it's a very different market than, let's say, Arizona, for example, like, that is always dry or nearly always dry. That product may be better in Arizona than it is in Florida, right? So
yeah, I mean, if you're going to be in your home for a long time, I know it's a hard pill to swallow, thinking about spending $15,000 on a roof, right? And then if you were to just look, it feels like the other extreme, where you're looking at just metal, basic metal, not even the Decker stuff we're talking about, and now you're looking at $35,000 compared to 15.
Do you guys mind if I jump in here?
No, it's a big pill to swallow.
I'm on the Tesla site and looking at this because this is a fascinating product that I had no idea even existed. But outside that 25-year, and I don't mean to contradict you, Matt, but they're actually steel tiles. They're made of steel.
So I learned something.
They have a glass coating, and then they are also steel core. So I guess the steel kind of helps dissipate some of that heat absorption, and then that's the conversion that happens to create the electricity. But yeah,
there's some high-tech super nerd stuff engineered into that.
The expense of these things, these are definitely going to be much more expensive than just your run-of-the-mill even metal roofing. And you're paying per tile.
Okay, so
you're
there we
not
go.
paying for the sheet, right?
People think they're going to live in their home longer than they do. I think the generation now, a lot of them say, "Oh, we're probably going to move in 5 to 10 years."
This
like
is
a lot of people
something that
think
you
that.
stick on your log cabin, your escape home. That you just want to
stay
get
in there.
you want to get away from. You show up and you have power. I couldn't imagine putting this on like my actual home. The price would be astronomical, I'm sure.
I think that like high-end homes probably might have that.
Yeah.
Like if they're already like have a crazy budget.
It's a beautiful product. It looks great.
It's a neat looking product. Yeah, I've seen a few around. Again, but it is. I just know it's extremely expensive.
Yeah, it is. It's metal core and it's steel. It's not even. It's not aluminum. It's the heavy, expensive metal.
Okay, interesting.
So we'll put a little bow on the show, and thanks for running through the different types of roofs and rough idea on the cost, which is just super generic. Like every roof is going to be different. So if you want to get a roof quote, or you think maybe you have to do this, or you got the letter from the insurance company, call or text us. We'll get you connected with Matt. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. You can call or text us, 813-377-2775. And this is Matt Lentz. He's here with us today with the roofing company of Tampa Bay.
Yes.
And to wrap it up for homeowners, like what's some of the biggest mistakes you see people make when it comes to the roof?
I'd say probably, jumping in and doing something under pressure. I'd say probably leads to the biggest mistakes. If you already have a roof leak, like you have a problem that needs to be addressed quickly,
right?
But you don't have to make a decision that day, if you're not comfortable. So I would say just do your homework, do your due diligence. It does seem like, and it is an emergency, but take the time to make a good decision or one that you're comfortable with, just because this is a very expensive product.
Right.
And the most expensive roof is, or let me rephrase it, kind of a cheap roof.
And I was going to say, like, if a homeowner has one little leak, and I know this is really a loaded question, but what might a little repair cost compared to replacing it? To circle back to what you said in terms of buying yourself some time to not make a high pressure decision.
Yeah, I mean, a very minor repair could be as little as a service call amount. I mean, we're talking just $200 or $400,
like shingles that are loose
exactly.
or lifted.
Yes, or perhaps resealing something, renailing something. So, and then repairs can go all the way up into the tens of thousands, which then we're looking at a replacement instead of a repair.
Right.
But kind of back to the question, I encourage homeowners to not just go with the cheapest bid.
Yeah.
Because the least expensive roof can easily become the most expensive problem
Mm-hmm.
down the road.
I have a curious question for you, just with the market and the economy we're in right now. Mm-hmm. How are you seeing most homeowners pay for their roof? Because I know a lot of people don't have a set budget set aside. Are you seeing them pay through home equity lines? Are they getting separate loans for the roofs, which I'm sure you guys have a company that help with that?
We do.
What do you see in general? Like if you talk to 10 different homeowners and you're replacing their roof, what do those look like?
I would say probably about a third of our customers right now are using a finance option that we offer.
You guys help. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The other 2/3 are basically paying with cash.
Or their home equity loan.
Exactly. But, if they pulled a home equity loan, a lot of times we don't know that. They just,
I would say it's less than a third pay cash, I would say. Probably not even a quarter actual cash. It's probably, some variation of an equity line or a different loan.
That makes sense.
Talk about some of your financing options. How does that look like for customers?
Okay. Yeah. So these are home improvement financing companies that we work with. We have a couple that we work with. Generally speaking, terms can be as short as 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
as long as 20 years. Interest rates are, can be as low as the 7s or 8% number right now. Just a real general rule of thumb is approximately 1% of the project value would be equate to a monthly payment. So even a $20,000 roof, you're looking at around $200 a month, depending upon the finance program. That's
probably on the longer time frame, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Correct.
Well, I mean, a roof is one of those things. When you need it, you need it.
That's exactly right. Yep.
You have to be able to figure that out.
Yeah. Just again, a lot of homeowners should, take the time to plan and budget. Even if they have a relatively new roof, we have a lot of homeowners, the planning type, that are coming to us and say, look, I know I don't need a new roof. I need one maybe 3 to 5 years from now. What are today's pricing?
Yes.
Right? Just so I can prepare myself.
Well, because before COVID, right, that $15,000 roof was what, 10 before
that's
COVID?
Exactly right.
Is that a good guess?
That's pretty close.
Okay.
Yes. We product pricing spiked during COVID, and it just
Never went back
unfortunately
down.
hasn't come down.
And I don't think it will. Everything costs more.
It does.
So we're knee deep in inflation.
Roofing, unfortunately, is no different.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you want to get some information, if you're one of these people that want to be proactive with your roof, which I highly recommend, because when storm season rolls in and we get those crazy rains in the spring, that's when you guys get crazy busy.
correct.
And the wait time is a little longer to get someone out there.
Yes.
And so be proactive, get that checked out, get an idea what pricing is so you can start budgeting and planning and preparing, because it's way better than trying to take a loan.
Yes.
So our off-air number, if you want to call or text or get information from Matt, any of our guests, you got a question for me, It's 813-377-2775. You can call or text that number, 813-377-2775. And any final words for our listeners, Matt? It's a great show, really informative.
No, just again, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like I say, homeowners out there listening would love the opportunity to consult with you on a project. So just know we are here to help.
Awesome. Matt Lentz, thanks for being my guest today and on the Roofing Company of Tampa Bay. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. This is Tampa Home Talk. Love where you live, or we're going to fix it. Welcome home.